Welcome to Ridiculously Happy Peoplecast. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I am with Nikki Yo today. How are you, Nikki?
I'm doing great, Sophia. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, and you're going to hear all about it. But first, what's new with you?
So this past weekend, Midland put on a little rib fest, which was kind of cute. There was like 4 vendors, so nice and small. But it was fun. We walked down with the girls and got our rib on. So then nice little mini midway for the kids and games and the twirly strawberries and all that kind of stuff. So our oldest, who's 3, has never been to a fair before. So it was like, there was a lot of excitement, so it was super cool, and we had some great food, and the tug fest was also on in the harbor with all the tugboats, so that was fun. Very noisy because we were super close. They were still honking away into the nighttime, but no, it was great. Turned into a really beautiful weekend, so that was awesome.
Did anyone get sick on any of the rides from all of the ribs that I hope you were eating?
We did the rides first, and then we ate.
All right. I didn't even think about that as an option, but okay.
Yeah, it's
Very
like,
smart.
let's do this. Yeah.
I love Ribfest because I love food. And I love food that can be messy, and ribs are delicious. They just have that flavor profile that I love, and even the baked beans. I always love the baked beans at Ribfest.
So good.
You said that there were only 4 rib booths, and I have to say that definitely makes Ribfest easier because you don't have to be like, which one do I go to?
Yeah, exactly. And then it didn't take as long. There's less of a wait. So it was definitely, I've really only ever done like Barrie Rib Fest, and it's like all the downtown area and by the water and stuff. So it was significantly smaller, but it was, I mean, for the kids, it's ginormous anyway. So that's awesome. Still delicious. We still had a great time.
I've done Ribfest in London, Ontario. For those who don't know that there is a London in Ontario. It's not the fancy one from Britain. I've been to Ribfest in London, Ontario, and it is quite large. And I've been to the Ribfest in Owen Sound, and it is definitely more easily digestible.
Yep.
Plus, you can see everything because there's the stage over there where the music is, and there's the probably 4 rib vendors right there, and then there's the tent where you sit down and you eat, and so much easier.
More compact. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, as you know, last week I took the week off of communicating with clients, and I think I did a pretty good job of not going into my email too much.
You did.
Or at least not answering emails.
Yes.
Too much. There was a couple.
Too much.
Not too much. And I focused on some business development stuff, and I recorded some tutorial videos for creating albums and creating cards and downloading digital files, because people have trouble with that sometimes, because not everyone is as nerdy as I am. So that's good. And I've been editing the podcast, and we are working pretty hard to get season 1 out as quickly as possible so that there's actually content for people to listen to, rather than like going to our podcast and being like, oh, cool, there's 2 episodes. Great.
Now what?
Do they actually exist?
We do.
Yeah, we do. But I really had to take a week off from talking to people because I just needed a break.
Fair enough.
And today we are going to talk about mental health and coping strategies for mental health. And I mean, this is a topic that people talk about a heck of a lot more these days than previously. I don't even know. When did the Bell Let's Talk Day thing come about? I didn't even think to look that up, but people are thankfully talking about mental health a lot more these days than they used to. Which is which is really important, I think, because I feel fairly confidently that everyone on the planet right now is dealing with at least a mild case of PTSD from the pandemic.
Yep.
Because we were all told, everyone everywhere, you know, big emergency, go home and stay there. And that's a pretty
Yeah.
scary thing to hear. And then,
Hmm.
we don't know when we're going to be able to come out and see people. And you had people at home who lived by themselves and, didn't have family around them that could be in their pod and didn't have a
Yeah.
cat to keep them company. And
Hmm.
yeah, I remember being like, okay, this up in the air stuff, not knowing when things are going to open up again or if they're going to. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of like fear about the pandemic. And then also, fear about, well, we're going to be wearing masks forever now. And
Yep.
so there's all that fear stuff that I think would contribute to everyone having a little bit of PTSD. But in the time that
For
we
sure.
were, experiencing the pandemic and being at home, we weren't shaking hands. We weren't
Hmm.
hugging each other. There was a severe lack of physical contact. And if you lived with people during that time, then I mean, you were able to have physical contact. So you, for example, with your husband and
Yep.
your kids, like obviously you're going to have to have physical
Have some
contact
physical
because
contact.
I do not think that toddlers got the memo. but
Definitely did not.
But even with having physical contact at home, I don't think people realize that, like, when you went out into public and your face was covered and there was a piece of plexiglass between you and, like, a receptionist or a clerk at a
Hmm.
store, and you would see people that you would know, but under normal circumstances, you would give them a hug or shake their hand, but you can't
But
do
you
that now.
can't. Yeah.
Maybe you would bump elbows, but then people would be reasonably judgmental about that. And
Yep.
yeah, I don't think people realize that the lack of physical contact, like that, albeit small amount of skin to skin contact that you would have with people outside of your immediate family or bubble or outside of your
Hmm.
home, how not having that would impact people's lives. And
Yeah.
then add on to it, people were drinking more and consuming
Hmm. Yeah.
more marijuana
Hmm.
and not exercising and eating
Yeah.
all of the food and all of that stuff would, have a major impact on mental health. And I think that I did reasonably well at the beginning of the pandemic. I actually got in like the best shape that I've been in a long time. And then at some point in the last 2 years, so it's 2023 now, it's been a
Hmm.
few years.
Yep.
Sometime in the last 2 years, I started to experience some very, I don't want to say debilitating, but impacting my life
Yeah.
depression, which
Hmm.
sucks. Where, your typical symptoms like, I don't want to exercise. No part of me wants to do that.
Forget those endorphins. I don't want them.
Yeah. I know. That would require way too much energy output. I don't
Yeah.
have any energy. Like, I want to sleep all
Hmm.
the time. Don't want to get out of bed. I'm not eating well, obviously, because like you're depressed. So what are you going to do? You're going to eat the food
Junk
that tastes
food.
good because that's the
Yeah.
easiest way to have the, immediate good feels.
Yep.
Chips are the best.
Hmm.
And I have experienced the like constant pain thing, like just the strangest stuff where I've, said to Kevin, like, it feels like my entire body is bruised. Like if I touch
Yeah.
my arm, it's not like fall down in pain, but
But it's like tender.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very strange. And I really genuinely don't really want to be around people. And it's taking a lot of energy to do anything remotely social. Like thinking about
Yeah.
going out in public and seeing people is just thinking about it, getting myself ready to go do it, to go out of the house is exhausting me. So,
Hmm.
yeah. And so there's a reasonably significant family history in my own family of anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder. And I can personally remember my dad many, many, many moons ago telling me, like, you need to be conscious of this. You need to be aware of how you're feeling and, like, almost be ready to deal with it. Like, recognize when you're feeling depressed or anxious or,
Yeah.
like, things aren't making sense so that you can deal with it. So we're going to talk about coping
Yeah.
strategies today. And I don't know if you have any, experience with mental health
Yes.
issues of your own or in your own family or what have you. But
Hmm.
you go ahead and you share your immediate thoughts on all this stupid, stupid stuff that no one is happy to deal with.
I know it is so tough, and it's like very similarly myself and my family history of depression, anxiety, family history of bipolar. I first started noticing some instances of depression heading into university, and got my own clinical diagnosis then. And for me, when the pandemic hit, that was the hardest part. I was 6 months pregnant with my oldest, and I was terrified, like, for lack of a better word. I did not know what was going to happen. I didn't know where to go, who to see. I was so sad about so many things that I felt like I was missing out on. Like, I didn't get to have a baby shower. I didn't get to have the, like, whole hoopla when I brought home the baby, and like everyone passing her around and the new baby smell and snuggles and whatever. Like, it was very, very isolating for me. Not only was I the first of, not in my family, but of my friends and like my peers to have kids, but now I was doing it living 45 minutes away from everyone that I knew, and you couldn't see anyone anyway. So I could FaceTime, and my daughter's born in June, so my parents could come and we could like stand across the yard from each other and they could look at their granddaughter, but it's not the same as having someone physically there and rub my back and tell me it's going to be okay, you're doing great, and let me hold the baby because she only contact naps and you go nap by yourself for a change. And like, it felt, I was very much on my own, and my husband was still working. He's in the trades, so he he stayed home with me for about a week after our daughter was born, and then he was back to work. Fortunately, he works outside, so that we had a bit of an extra safety layer kind of there. But it was really scary. We had this brand new baby. I had a high risk pregnancy. We, for a good chunk of the time, thought that we were going to lose her. So there was a lot of extra fear surrounding that. Like, we were out of the woods and now there's a huge pandemic and I could still lose her. Like, it was very, very scary. And then trying to cope through all of that, this big upheaval in life. I've always been around kids. I love kids. I always wanted kids. But then to be in that 24/7 is so different. And it's a huge stressor on everyone and on relationships and on everything. Your whole life is different, right? So then you throw in a global pandemic, and it's great. I personally really struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety. And I remember one night specifically I don't even know how many times I've been up with her at that point, but I was feeding her and started hallucinating. And I basically like recognized that what was going on was not real. And I was able to put her in her crib and then go and get my husband and be like, we are tapping out. Like, I obviously can't do this safely right now. Like, we can't, if you have to call out tomorrow, you have to call out, but like, I need to sleep. This is not okay. And it's, yeah, the isolation for me, it was a really hard part. I'm a very affectionate person. I'm very close with my family, and to not be able to share those moments with them was really, really tough on me. And like, I think too, there's this outside stigma that, okay, you have that new baby and it's the glow moment. And for me, I'm sitting there on my couch with this baby, like, what do I do now? Like, I can't leave the house. There's nowhere to go. Like, the mom stroller walk around the mall. Well, I can't do that anymore because the mall's closed. The strollers and stars at the Cineplex and go watch the movie while the babies cry. You can't do that because Cineplex is closed. And like, it was such an upheaval and uncertain time. And I felt like I was so confined to my house that there was just nowhere to go. And there was no one I could see. There was no one that could give me that relief. And that was super, super hard for sure.
I truly do not know how people cope with postpartum depression, let alone just not sleeping for days at a time. I mean, I think scientifically we have come to the realization that you need to get at least 8 hours of solid sleep a night in order to function like baseline, not to function at your best, but to, be able to do what you need to do in life at all. And yeah, I've never having my own children, like giving birth to my own children, has never been my priority in life. And
Yeah.
I see parents do it and how much your life changes, and I can't imagine, and then throw a pandemic into it. I'm glad that people are talking about postpartum depression these days, because, and like, you know, I still hear like Ben make comments about it, and I just want to, well, I often do respond, but like, I know how I feel once a month, and that's a mild fluctuation.
And that's awful.
It is awful. My personality changes completely, and that's just a mild fluctuation in my hormones. I can't imagine giving birth, the physical trauma that you experience, the potential significant emotional trauma that you experience with, if there are any sort of complications with your birth, and then add into it, all of a sudden your body's like, okay, let's change everything in the matter of a few hours and flood you with all sorts of crazy hormones and all that.
Yeah.
Delightful stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Were you hallucinating because you were exhausted, or do you think it was a symptom of your depression?
I think it might have been a combination of both. Like I didn't have anything to do. I had a baby that only slept on me, so I did a lot of TV watching during the days. And like I said, you can't go anywhere because you might get COVID and die, and who knows. And I got this brand new baby and that was the thing that really struck me too. Like I'd go grocery shopping and I'd wear a mask and I'd have the cover on the car seat in the shopping cart, and people would still get exceptionally close to me and my obviously very tiny little baby in her car seat covered up. And I just want to see it. Well, I don't want you to see. Like, no, thank you. And I just pulled out my mask so she doesn't get scared. All she knows in life is masks. So really, like, you're fine at this point. Like, that's for her, that's normal that other people other than mommy and daddy wear a mask, which is crazy in itself. But I think there was just so much going on, and so much that I was trying and figure out and learn at the same time. And that postpartum period was something that I had never heard talked about until I was in the middle of it myself. Yes.
Speaking of,
we need to do a quick little bathroom break. This is when we love potty training, but it is still so difficult that she can come and tell me when she's got to go, but I'm still wiping bums. So we're almost there.
It's funny, actually, that you say that. I was not expecting, but now that I think about it, I do announce whenever I have to go to the washroom.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I have to go now.
Like, do we never get out of that? Like,
apparently not. No.
One of my teammates at Ball is currently potty training her daughter, and it's hilarious, the stories that she's telling at Ball. Like, the other day she took her 2 kids to the park, and her youngest, whom she is potty training, I guess pooped just everywhere. It was not a good poop, and it was like she didn't bring towels or anything to clean anything up with. She's like, well, I guess, and they biked there. They did not drive. So it was like, well, put her in like the bike carrier and was like, we're riding home with poop all over ourselves.
This is a life lesson. Yeah. I'm sure it won't happen again. So
yeah, I know, right? Speaking of the joys of having kids and postpartum depression.
Yeah. just all adds into it.
Just when they're starting to sleep through the night, they start pooping everywhere.
Pooping everywhere. Oh, isn't that the truth? Yep. I was thinking this morning, I was like, I don't know that a day goes by when I don't have someone's poop or pee on me. Like, that's, yeah. It's about the norm.
I don't think I'm built for that particular type of life. Although, I did grow up with cows, and they just poop wherever they want.
Yeah.
So,
pretty much like kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that squeamish, I guess.
No.
I'm used to, like, if you went to shows, if we were at, like, cattle shows, you hope that they're having good poops. Otherwise, you have to, clean them after you've just cleaned them, which I'm sure is very similar to having kids.
Yeah, I think the
So-
rule of thumb with babies is like once you've watched them, they have a blowout. Pretty much, you can guarantee you kid hasn't pooped. Well, put them in clean clothes; they'll poo everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'm used to having like poop on my hands and everything. So.
Yeah,
But
there you go. You're
still,
there. No.
oh my goodness. So you were talking about postpartum depression, and like you didn't really hear about it until you were in the middle of it. And I will say, probably since you had your daughter, people are talking about it a heck of a lot more.
A lot more, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I was very fortunate that that was all kind of happening at the same time. And maybe the pandemic pushed that to come to the forefront. Like we were now seeing more what stay-at-home parents were going through and what new moms were dealing with, exacerbated by the pandemic and this whole shift in life and adjustment. And I was fortunate to find some really great accounts that I could follow and that were able to kind of just have that you're not alone in this. What you're experiencing, though it sucks, is unfortunately typical, and there are other people going through this too, and you can find a community that you can share that with and feel supported and learn different tips and tricks and tactics for how to handle that internally and externally and how to speak with your family about that so that you're getting the support that you need. And that was very helpful for me, even just having that, like, you're not alone, like that made a big difference.
That is a vast improvement over how they would deal with especially women's mental health. Like, let's say just 50 years ago. I mean, women would have been institutionalized at one point if they were generally unhappy with their lives.
Too dramatic. Yeah.
Like, oh no, you don't like your life? Well, you should. And if you don't, you are therefore crazy, and we're going to put you somewhere so we don't have to listen to you talk about it anymore.
Yeah. We don't want to hear you.
How crazy is that?
It is so crazy. Just, and I think too, like you hear from like my parents' generation, and it's, well, that's just, that's just what you did. You just had to do it. And it's like, I don't accept that as a rule. I don't just have to hate my life, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Goodness. Makes me think about how people used to deal with mental health issues, and it's just, anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
So we're going to talk about coping strategies, and they are all very, very, very simple things, which are all basically meant to like protect your own, mental health, to protect yourself from falling into a situation where you might have an issue, and also, just very simple stuff that can start getting some endorphins going in your body and help you feel a little bit better. And the first one on my list is alone time.
Yes.
So getting quiet time alone. This one has been particularly important for me these days because, previous to Kevin being in my life, I was a pretty quiet person. Believe it or not, people might not believe that, but when I'm at home, I'm not actually talking to people all the time. So when I was at home by myself and there was no one else around, like I might talk to the dogs or the cats or whatever, but I, for the most part, was not speaking. I was singing. I was singing along with music. That's different. That's true. It is different. But I could be in silence, and listening to music and watching TV and stuff like that is not the same as having people around you all the time who are conversing with you, because it takes a totally different level of energy to respond to things, to listen, to absorb what someone's saying. And that can be gosh darn exhausting when you have other stuff on your mind or otherwise when you're just tired. So on my list of things to do for when you want alone time is meditating, reading, going for a walk, taking a week off of client communication, and we will get into that in a minute. But but what about yourself? What do you do when you need alone time? Hopefully it only happens when your husband is home.
Yep. Yeah. That's literally the only alone time I get. Generally what'll happen is depending on, and he tends to travel a lot with work, and he works long, very long hours. So if he's working a normal-ish day and he's home at a decent time, then say after dinner, I will go out and I will either take myself for dinner by myself and eat a meal in silence that I did not have to cook, which is beautiful. And I appreciate so much more now.
Yeah.
So I'll do that, or I'll go and get ice cream, or go for a walk, or go and run an errand that is not house related. So it's not groceries. It's not buying clothes for my kids. It's not going to the hardware store. It's like maybe getting a coffee and walking around Winners for an hour. That would be like a Nikki errand. And then I have to fight myself that do not buy things for the kids. Like, this is for you. That's the other piece of it, right? So I'll do that. Or sometimes what I'll do on a Saturday or Sunday morning, I'll get up. I mean, I'm up early with the kids anyway. We're all up early, crack it on. But I will collect myself and go out and get myself breakfast, and then go and do grocery shopping by myself. So I'm still doing my errands that I need to do. I'm still getting all my chores done and stuff, but I have that start off with doing something for myself. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And I rarely get to have a meal in peace these days. So that is always a nice, just kind of, I'll bring my book, I can sit, or I can listen to a podcast, and just kind of cool my jets while I relax by myself. So that's my great alone time.
It's awesome. At some point, we're going to have to do a list of podcasts that we like to listen to.
Yeah.
Podcasts are great.
They're great for like even just that background noise. If it's like I love music. I always have music going, but sometimes I also love to read. I don't always have time to read. And the podcast for me is great too, because you get that feeling of like someone's having a conversation with you and you're learning at the same time. So it's like you're alone, but you're not alone. So it's awesome.
Do you have any off the top of your head that are awesome?
I listen to one pretty regularly. I don't listen to every single episode. I tend to go and pick and choose with what kind of fits with what I'm dealing with. And it's The Mom Room. And her first name is Renee, and I'll have to pull it up, but it's the Mom Room podcast, and she's on Instagram under the same tagline. And she just talks about random parenting stuff, and she has I think her son's 4 or 5, and just things that she kind of deals with and what she finds, and she has different experts on with her show, and parenting coaches or dietitians and nutritionists and things like that for trying to get your kids to eat. And she talks about potty training and sharing the mental load with your partner and all that kind of stuff. So it's great when I find one, especially that like that's the nail on the head of what I am struggling with right now. And then I just send it off to my husband, and I'm like, listen to this one. This is perfectly saying how I'm feeling. Please listen. Let's talk about this when you get home. And then he'll listen to it on his commute. And he gets to hear it from someone other than me. So that's great too.
That's really handy. That's a good idea.
Yeah, super helpful.
If you are interested in parenting podcasts that are not like, because there's one that I listen to, so and it's not like here's how you do this with this sort of issue. It's more like, think about 2 funny people / comedians talking about all of the shit that's going on in their life with regards to their kids, their partners, whatever. For crying out loud, it's very entertaining. I listen to like every episode.
That's awesome.
And their kids, they started it when their kids were like toddlers, 5 years old maybe, and then their kids are now going away to college and everything, and it's really interesting to listen to.
Very cool.
If people like learning stuff, I highly recommend Star Talk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson, because you're just going to learn stuff like every single time. And he is so good, obviously, at putting things in words that average human beings can understand. Although he does talk a lot about astrophysics, and I'm still not getting a lot of that.
This is right over.
Yeah, I listened and I'm like, no, it's still not making sense to me. And Science Versus is also a really good show. They talk about basically debunk myths about scientific stuff. So they'll look at studies and interview experts. It's really good. Fascinating stuff. Okay. Anyway,
Awesome.
back to our topic at hand. Listen to podcasts, get some alone time, put your headphones in. And then when your kids or your spouse or other people at Starbucks, in my case, are trying to talk to you and you don't want to talk, you just go, can't hear you. Sorry.
Headphones. Yeah.
So I mentioned taking a week off of client communication, which ended up being kind of timely. As you know, I had a little bit of a freak out shortly before last week. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But basically, my work schedule can be really chaotic. So this week, for example, and this is my typical week, I will start my workday at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll finish, in quotations, at 5 o'clock, and that's Monday through Thursday. And then I take meetings until 7 p.m. because lots of people work 9 to 5 and they don't want to meet with me during that period of time. So they have to meet with me after 5 o'clock. And then I'll have shoots any evening of the week until 9 p.m. or possibly later, depending on when the sun is going down. Anything that I wasn't able to get done during the week, I'll end up doing on Friday, and then I'll have sessions and weddings Fridays through Sundays. And none of this includes working out my softball schedule or spending any time with my family and friends or driving to any of these things or sleeping. So basically, I can work from 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Sunday. Yeah. Sounds like fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So I try to take 3 hours off in the middle of the day, which is important for me because I discovered this when I was working full time at the insurance company. After I eat, I am useless to anyone for about an hour. I have no motivation and no energy to do anything. So hence the 3 hours off in the middle of the day. And I also try to take 3 days off a week because the whole 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening is just way too much. So I need, more than 2 days to decompress. And I, again, try to be intentional about this, but obviously in my line of work, it can be challenging because people want to have sessions on this one specific day at this one specific time, or, they're busy all week except for this one time when they can have a meeting like this potential client who shall not be named. Who Nikki and I were having a heck of a time nailing this person down for a meeting which he had to have because he desperately needs these photos like soon. And so Nikki is communicating with him. Thank goodness Nikki is communicating with him to set up this meeting. And I guess he said that there was only one time that he could meet in that week, just one time. And it happened to be in the middle of some time that I was taking off because I was having a busy week. Like in the span of 3 hours, he wanted to meet right in the middle of that 3 hour period of time, which basically was the only 3 hours of time that I had off during the week.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, fine. If that's the only time that this guy can meet, then we will meet at that time. And so the time comes, I have my computer set up, my camera, I'm all ready to go for the meeting. And guess who does not log into the meeting?
Awful.
This guy. You would be amazed how often that happens. Not just, people saying they can only meet during a specific time, but people scheduling a meeting and then not showing up. And by the way, they get a notification. No. I mean, if they're talking to Nikki, then they know because you're setting the time. You're saying it out loud to them, the time of the meeting. Or you confirm with them by email, like when the time is set. And then they get a reminder, at least one reminder, like the day
sometimes
of the
multiple.
meeting. Yeah. And we have put into this reminder, if you cannot make this time, please let us know so that we can reschedule and open that time up for other people. And the number of times that people if I had $1 for every time someone
You'd
didn't,
be rich.
I know I would. And they don't say anything. They don't say we found a photographer, we're unavailable, nothing.
No.
They just don't show up. And
Just
by the way,
ghost.
I can see when people read my emails because, again, I'm a nerd.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will look and it'll say they opened the email that said, if you are unavailable for this time, please let us know. And they just didn't bother to log into the meeting. Nothing.
Yep.
Just
didn't.
yeah. So setting boundaries. That's a really important one. So yeah, I'm really going to work a lot harder on not booking meetings during personal time.
Yep.
Because if people aren't going to log in, then what is the
Why
point?
bother? Yeah.
Because I spend my whole day waiting for that meeting to happen and preparing for it. And the mental part of me getting ready for, like, if I have a shoot on a Sunday in the evening, my entire Sunday is shot because
That's
that
your whole
entire day I am, mentally preparing for the shoot, right?
Totally.
In order to set boundaries, you need to set expectations with people. So for me, I put in social media and auto responders and posts and everything saying, I'm not available during these days. In my email signature, it says, this email inbox is monitored during these times and not outside of these times. I have auto responders on like text messages and social media DMs and all that fun stuff. And people do comment on seeing this stuff, and that's great that you set these expectations with people, but it only works if you are consistent and you stick to it. So that's what I'm going to be working on. What about you, Nikki? Nikki, by the way, you can continue to ask me if it's okay if I meet with this person at this time. It will be my responsibility
Your
to
discretion.
say no. Yeah. How about you?
The boundary thing is huge for me too. Especially like I work out of my home. I work while my kids are here. Like I have very certain times during the day when I am able to take meetings in which I can participate in, where I only have like a minor potty break interruption versus a complete meltdown interruption. Like, and same thing, like I scheduled my whole day around this. I had such a fluster this morning because I'm trying to sell one of our many strollers that we no longer need on Marketplace. And this woman's been messaging me all weekend, and the only day she could come was today. And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing podcasts with Sophia at 12:30, so my plan is to run the kids out in the morning so I can get one of them down for a nap. Like I've got my whole day backs up, right? I'm like, okay, well, I can do 9:30 or I can do after 3 p.m. So when I say after 3 p.m., I'm thinking like that 3 to 4 window. I'm not thinking anything other than that, to be completely
8
honest.
o'clock at night.
Right? Like it's not unlimited for the next 3 weeks. It's just within an hour of that maybe that's just me. So, first she wants to come at 9:30 and I'm like, okay, fine. That's like skews enough of my day. And then we had, my brother-in-law was borrowing my husband's truck, so I had to be here anyway. So, okay, whatever, that's fine. So 9 o'clock, I get the message that, no, I'm not coming now. I can be there after 3. And I was like, okay, well, what time is after 3? Like 5? I'm like, no, that's not, I'm feeding my kids. We're having our driveway dug up. I'll talk more about that later. Like my husband's gonna be coming home from work. 5 o'clock is prime kerfuffle in my house. Like I can't deal with you. I'm sorry. Like, then I got all this attitude and whatever. So, I mean, that I basically just said like, this is no longer worth it. Like I will either keep it on Marketplace or I'll convince my husband that yes, we still do need this extra stroller in our garage that we don't need. But that's just on the personal side. On the work side, I have I have one client in particular that really struggles to wrap their head around that concept of like,
no,
when I can be available. And like it's not you, obviously, but like it's
thank you.
let me just make sure. No, it's a very interesting setup, but it's this idea that I'm kind of constantly available, and that is not the case. And I've had instances where I've been like, okay, well in advance, I'm going to take this week off and I'm going to be offline. And I'm still getting, oh, can you double check about this? And can you check in about that? And can you, no, I'm not working this week. So now I have to turn around and invoice you when I was supposed to be not working. So that's not really gonna work out. So that's been a bit of a struggle trying to keep that in line. And I think it's more the type A personality that person is that needs the information right in that moment. But when I am setting meetings, I set them in advance. I've had same thing like these discovery and consult calls where people just don't show up. So now I've twiddled my thumbs around my house and adjusted nap schedules and adjusted meal times and missed out on being able to do something that I needed to do, whether it's work-wise or personal-wise or taking advantage of my flexible schedule, because that's the reason that I keep a flexible schedule, right? And that's very difficult. And I try really hard, especially with work and clients. I try to not pull my kids into it, like as much as I can. It's not, oh, well, I can't do this because this conflicts with my kids. It's no, I can't do this. Like, end of discussion, period. Like, this is the time I'm available to. Like, we scheduled 30 minutes for our meeting. No, I cannot stay on the call for 2.5 hours. Like, 30 minutes are up. See you later. Figure out the rest without me, basically. So that's, it's interesting, and I'm definitely in that same boat about like setting your boundaries is great, but enforcing them and sticking to them is much better. And I think the struggle with as a business owner, it's that like for me, it's that background fear of like, if I stick to my boundaries, do I lose my clients or do I lose out on potential business? Like, how much can I be willing to bend without? I mean, if I'm not going to get that client anyway, why am I throwing my entire week out just to waste my time anyway? So that's definitely a struggle that I have.
I have some thoughts on everything that you have just shared. But first, I know that you have a resource for our listeners. And I wonder if any of this stuff is in that.
There is actually. Yeah. So my resource that I wanted to share is you can find it on, at our website, theavasolution.com. And it's about the essential tips for the entrepreneur. So throughout this resource, we talk about being a small business owner. I think one of Sophia's favorites, the power of branding. That's like our first big point there. How important that is to just have everything so cohesive and really suit with what you do. We talk about the contact that you're making with clients, adding a personal touch. I love the thank you letters and notes that you send out, and that I think goes such a long way. We talk about networking and building your referral circles, keeping your office organized, especially so many small business owners have a home office, and especially the pandemic made that huge. People were working off their kitchen counters, out of a corner of their dining room, in their bedroom. If that's your office, that's totally fine. Like my office, we've converted our sunroom at the front of our house, so it's also half drop zone and craft space, and this is where I work. This is fine. It's a catch-all. We have a small 200-year-old home. This is just life. But it's so important to have things work the way that you need them to work, and it really goes into depth on kind of what you can build out to make the most of your small business and as an entrepreneur and like your burgeoning career in this new path that you're following. So super exciting stuff. It's kind of my favorite stuff to delve into. So very helpful.
And that's a free download on your website.
It is. Yeah. When you go on over there, there will be a nice pop-up and you can follow the cues to download and check out our other blog posts as well.
Excellent. Awesome. That's a good one.
It is.
I was just realizing we were getting into like business type talk, and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's totally other people who deal with this.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So there's two things that I want to comment on. First, you were talking about the woman who was being a little bit of a pain in the butt about when she was going to show up to pick up the stroller. And I hate having to list anything on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace or anything, because guaranteed they are not going to read the description, and they are going to email you or message you a question that is clearly answered in the description. That drives me nuts. I hate that. I have like sold bags because for some reason at one point in my life, I collected a number of bags. And I don't think of myself as particularly girly, but it did happen. Um, and just, people who are like, well, can you drive it half an hour to me and then half an hour back to deliver the bag?
And will you take money off the price? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, are you effing kidding me? No,
Oh,
I will
man.
not. Like, no, you can come to me and pick it up if you want it, or you can
Yeah.
not have it.
Or that's it.
I totally hope that you start just telling people no. Like, first
I
sign
did.
of
I
trouble,
ended up
no.
I ended up just saying, like, you know what? I'm not available at that time, so this isn't going to work out.
Yep.
And it's hilarious that you're like, they didn't read the description, because that's literally what happened. The first message I got was, I don't know if my car seat will fit in the stroller. And it's a Graco brand, and it's a click and connect, which means that every Graco click and connect car seat fits the click and connect stroller. That's like the perk of this brand. Sorry. Good job, honey. Okay.
Yeah.
She got her music all by herself. So she's like, I don't know if my car seat will fit. And I was like, well, what's the brand? And she reads me out the whole, like, the travel system, jogger, whatever. And I'm like, it will fit. I literally have that system from when I only had one kid. And she's like, well, I'll have to come and, like, check, like, test it out to make sure it fits. I'm like, sure. Don't bother. Stay home. Lose my Facebook. No.
When Kevin and I moved back from Tiny, there were no like big closets in the place that we were in Tiny. So we had gotten like IKEA cabinets and stuff.
Yeah.
And we brought them home, and the one just there was nowhere to put it. It was just not going to, it was enormous. It was not going to fit anywhere. It would have been fantastic if it did, but it just wasn't going to fit. And it would be a pain to carry into the house anyway, because it was like weirdly heavy. But anyway, I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and a woman messaged me. She's like, do you still have it? I'm like, yes. She's like, I will send you an e-transfer right now and we will come pick it up. Like, not we'll come pick it up right now, but she's like, I'll send you an e-transfer to hold it, and then we'll set a time to come pick it up. I'm like, you're my favorite person.
This is great.
We had it in the garage. They came, they backed up their truck. They're like, They put it in the back of the truck and they left. And I'm like, you're amazing.
Life can be easy. It should be for something like that.
No haggling, nothing. Sent me an e-transfer for the full amount. It was fantastic. Okay. People say no to haggling on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. Because, oh my
just don't take it.
And then people showing up late to meetings, or people holding you on a meeting that's supposed to be half an hour long. Like, I try to set expectations.
Yeah, the holding on meetings, that's something I really struggle with, especially if it's like a morning meeting and I know, like, okay, I'm heading into like a breakfast time, or I'm trying to like, it's especially, like, if a meeting goes 5-10 minutes, even up to 20 minutes, I don't generally care. It's when it's like 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
An hour and a half. Like, it just drags. And I'm like, especially, like, there are still meetings that could be emails, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to meet with you. Those are the ones that kill me.
I try to set expectations with people when they're scheduling meetings with me, where I'm like, we're going to talk for 30 to 40 minutes. Like, that's it. And usually they're quicker than that. And you know this, I try to book meetings back to back, so I just do all the meetings, and then I send out all the emails, and and I will tell people I have someone else logging in 5 minutes, so we're gonna have to wrap it up, kind of like, do you have any final thoughts? It makes me so mad when I'm sitting on a call. I'm sitting on the call. I'm waiting for the other person to log into the call, and I'm sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for them to log into the call. And that's when I get a text message. Sorry, client's holding me up on another call. I will totally be there in 5 minutes. And I'm like, I've scheduled half an hour for this call, and you're going to log in 15 minutes into that half an hour call. Like, that makes it not worth it for me. We've cut the meeting time down by half an hour, because, I mean, I'm not going to stay for longer than I had committed to originally.
No,
so let's
now
reschedule.
Your whole day is pushed. Yeah,
Exactly. Nuts. So
I'm with you there.
All right. But anyway, set boundaries with people and set
Boundaries.
expectations and then stick to them.
And
Gosh
accept
darn
them.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 3 on the list is exercise. And I've already said that I'm not exercising enough. Thankfully, I have softball to keep me going right now. So that's good. And also is making me go, holy moly, I'm out of shape right now. So I need to get back in shape. We talked about in our introductions how we both spent quite a bit of time in post-secondary education. And when I was in university, definitely, that's the last time that I've been quite depressed, where I was skipping an awful lot of class.
Yeah.
And I mean, I brag about it because there's classes that I went to like 2 of the classes and I didn't fail a single course. So
good for you.
But as we know, a lot of it's like theoretical and opinion based in like the line of education that I was doing. So
as long as you're doing the readings, you don't really need to be in class. Yeah.
If I could put the concepts together in decent words, then the teachers were like, oh my God, she's a genius.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't need the 5% attendance mark.
Yeah, for sure. So I said that about halfway through my second year of university, I was like, I can't do any more school. And at that time I was really depressed. Like I was staying home. I was not going out. I was not talking to people much. My third year, the summer before my third year, my uncle forced me to go to a gym, and he did not force me. But anyway, I started going to this gym and started getting into shape, and then I worked out all through my third year of school, and oh, what do you know? It helped significantly.
Yeah, endorphins make you happy.
Absolutely. So in terms of exercise, people think like you need to go to a gym or you need to run or you need to like work out 7 days a week for an hour, and you don't have to do any of those things. So my recommendations for exercise, which I'm totally not following right now, but I'm going to have to, is do something that you enjoy. Pickleball seems to be a very popular one these days. You can play badminton. I had Kevin bring the basketball net up from the shed.
Awesome.
For the kids, but I'm playing basketball. And by the way, totally one of those instances where Bruce was like on high alert because Kevin went to the shed with the kids and he carried it up from the barn by himself. So Bruce is at the window like, what the hell is that?
What is that?
Let him out. He goes running like he's a bear, like he's gonna just destroy this basketball net. And then you can see so when it changes, his hair goes from standing up to being down, and he's like, oh my God, it's my family.
It's fun. Oh, it's so cute.
Do things that you enjoy. Don't push yourself too hard, because the minute you push yourself too hard is when you're gonna stop exercising, which is basically my life. Just get started. Yep, that's a big one.
Yeah,
if you just start doing it, usually you can get into doing it and enjoy it, all that stuff.
Yeah,
set time aside, put it into your calendar. And I don't think that I have shared my activity calendars with you, but they are in my calendar. Make a plan with a friend, because you could just go walking with your friend. So make a plan with a friend, because that can help. I like to make plans with, softball is basically like that. I mean, I have to show up because they're expecting me to be there. I like to make plans to go walking with my friend Carrie. And even if you're sitting at a desk all day, like get up and every hour and do 5 push-ups. Like we've been told you should not be sitting at a desk all day. So if you're getting up every hour, and by that I mean you should be getting up every hour, get up and just do 5 push-ups, because that would be more than you're doing already.
Exactly.
And when in doubt, go outside.
Yes, fresh air. Yeah, fresh air.
For sure. Walk your dog. I don't know. What about you? What do you have for exercise?
Going for a walk is a big one. Running out this one, and my youngest is admiring the leaves. We tend to on like our treat outings, we'll walk down. There's a coffee shop right on the bay, Grounded. And
Yes.
they make these awesome maple sandwich cookies that my girls are addicted to. They love them. And they will just sit and have their cookie, and we'll go throw rocks in above the bay. And so that's our big excitement on the nice days, for sure. And I get lots of exercise chasing them around the park, which is super fun. We have a large detached garage at the back of our house. So when the pandemic started, kind of converted part of it into a bit of a home gym. Wow, hold on 10 more. Monopoly money, what a game changer. So we've got some weights and stuff there. So I try to carve out time in the morning before the kids get up when I can go out and have a bit of a workout. And we've got a bit of a play zone for them too, so they can play around. Well, especially like in the winter when I'm not getting out as much, we're not walking on the terrible bad snow in days, and so that's very helpful for sure. One of the sad things about Midland is that there's not very many gyms. We've got like 2 gym options, and only one of them has childcare, and it's 2 hours 2 days a week, so it's not very feasible for me that way, unfortunately, but that's the perk of the home gym for sure.
So all the parents go at the same time.
They must. They're like, oh, we've bookended it with parent and taught. I'm like, I don't want a parent and taught. I parent and taught my kids all day. I just want you to watch them for an hour and a half while I go and run on the treadmill. Please and thank you. Here's my $6. Yeah.
This is the time when I don't want to be with them.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So that's fun.
Okay. Well, number 4, sort of similar, is get around people.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed about myself is I have mentioned that if I have a shoot in the evening or at any time during the day, it feels like I'm expending a lot of energy just getting ready and going to it. Just mentally is exhausting me.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I have noticed that when I go to the shoot and then I'm, talking to people, laughing and genuinely having a good time, I feel like a different person after the shoot. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a good mood now.
It's contagious.
Funny how that works. You can also, play a sport. I mean, we just talked about exercise. This is a great way to get exercise. And by the way, you do not have to be good at it. Like, okay, I play competitive softball. In my softball league, there's 3 divisions, A, B, and C. And C division, like, they're not good. But they're getting exercise and socializing for 2 hours a week at least. Like,
there you go.
And, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So
it is. It's awesome.
Don't hold yourself back from, signing up for a sport like soccer, softball, volleyball, whatever, because you think, well, I don't know how to do that, because you can learn. And also, I guarantee if there's multiple divisions and you're going into a division that's not competitive, probably 90% of the other people there also don't know what they're doing. And that's fine.
Yeah. That's true.
Go to a coffee shop. I do this all the time. I go to Starbucks, or there is a great cafe in Owen Sound that I go to pretty regularly, the Frog Ponds. And I just sit there and do work, and have made a lot of friends with retired teachers, because that's where they go. They go to the Frog Ponds.
That's cool.
And then make plans with friends. And we're going to get to the therapy part of it later. But at some point, my therapist did say to me, like, maybe you should like make a point of making plans with your friends. I'm like, yeah, I guess I should. So it is a thing in my so I use the app Streaks to keep track of habits that I want to form. It's really interesting. Check it out.
Very cool.
And that's one of the things that I've put into my Streaks, is making plans with friends. So that I can look at it and be like, oh, this week I didn't make any plans with any friends. Okay. Yeah, I have a problem. What about you and getting around people? Is that when you go to Winners and you walk around?
When I walk around. So for me, with getting around people, I'm trying to make other mom friends, which is harder than it sounds. And I thought it was going to be so easy. And then I see other parenting styles and I'm like, That's not meshing with me. And like, I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
That's fine. You
Yeah.
parent the way you want to parent. But like, I don't, there's certain things I don't want my kids around, and that they're young and impressionable and can get dangerous. So that's interesting. And then just trying to coordinate with schedules and sometimes I'm just tired. Like, it's one of those things where like when I have the time to be like, okay, let's go and have an outing. I'm like, or we get a movie night. Yeah. So getting around people for me is definitely checking out the coffee shops, and we go for walks down by the water, and park is great for that. And generally when we go, there's other kids there. So then my kids can be around other kids playing, and she thinks every kid that she meets is her new best friend. So that's very exciting, right? She loves it. So then for me, the difficult part is coordinating schedules with my friends that don't have kids, for when my schedule meshes with their schedule when they live, say, in Barrie or in Toronto, and maybe work shift work, or maybe have their own stuff going on, or coordination is hard. I even have my joke is like my only friend in Midland, that when I was working in insurance at one insurance broker in Aurelia, we both got hired for this job and then realized that we live like 4 blocks from each other, and how hilarious. Cool. So yeah, so super fun. And we both left the job at different times, but stayed in close contact. And so it was my joke. We had just moved to Midland. I was like, I finally have a friend here. So we maybe can get together like once every 6 months, and we try like every 3 weeks, like, okay, let's go get drinks. It's a mom's night out. And we're like, oh, well, dad's not home yet, and the kids are sick, or this is going on, or this is, gotta work late. But yeah, so I see my sister a lot, which is awesome. We're about just under 2 years apart. So I've always been very, very close. So I see her probably once, if not more, a week, talk daily. And because we are also business partners, we carve out one day a week for it to just be strictly work. We don't want to be talking about work every single day. And that's our boundary that we set. We have a standing meeting once a week where we like plan our month and do any content that we need to do, and talk about things that we have on the go. And anything outside of that is just personal, which is nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you ever have to stop each other from talking about business stuff when you're having your like friend time?
There are sometimes when we'll do that, because it's more like, I don't have my notebook, I'm not prepared, the kids are screaming, I'm not in like the work zone. Like, put a pin in it, send me an email, and we'll talk about it after.
So the next one is to get off of social media, which we have talked about before, but I want to get into this whole thing about social media algorithms. And I can't remember what the documentary was called. Maybe I'll look it up. Maybe I won't, but whatever. I'm sure if you look up social media on like Netflix, it'll probably pop up. But basically, Facebook and Instagram and all those algorithms want to show you content that you are likely to engage in. And unfortunately, people are more likely to argue than they are to talk about something that they want to talk about. They are more likely to complain about a bad experience than they are to talk about having a good experience. Like, this is stuff that we know as business owners, but pay close attention when you're on Facebook, especially. People are more likely to engage with the content that they don't like. And I have been very intentional about only engaging with the positive stuff and hiding the negative stuff. So I don't really see that anymore. Now I see some pretty cool content on Facebook, and most of it is about dogs and cats. Some of it's about pretty cool landscapes and nice quotes and stuff. But if you're seeing a lot of negative stuff, like people arguing, they will show you content in your Facebook feed that you are not going to like, because they know that you're more likely to leave a negative comment on that content than you are to leave a positive comment on stuff that you like. So pay close attention and get off of it. Maybe even delete the apps from your phone. That'll probably help. And we mentioned in, I don't know if it was our last episode, can't remember, to mute and unfollow accounts that stress you out anyway, and hide ads, because ads I'm still seeing weight loss ads.
Yeah. I talked about something one time and it's like everywhere.
And they're always like diet culture type ads that I know there's no legitimacy behind. Oh, lose 80 pounds in 3 months. I am aware that is very unhealthy.
Yeah, that's not cool.
What about you and social media? Do you have any thoughts on getting off of social media?
I find myself like ending up in that rabbit hole more often than I would like just
Mhm.
completely sucked into scrolling reels and like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
gonna look for 20 minutes and then it's the evening and I've been on my phone for an hour and a half. Like everyone's in
Yep.
bed, I'm sitting up by myself just scrolling my phone. Like this is time that I could have been productive for myself or like properly
Yeah.
decompressed, not stared at my tiny screen for an hour and a half.
Hmm.
And so when I have those days, I'm like, all right, I'm on here way too much. And so I'll go and I'll have days where I just like completely do not go on at all.
Hmm.
And I think I mentioned before, like it's a lot of the how I keep up with my family and friends and stuff. And fortunately, I do not manage our social media for Ava, so I don't have to worry about that. Like I build out the content and stuff with it with
Yeah.
Angie, but like I'm not physically managing it, which is nice because
Hmm.
I hate doing that. That is like my least
Yeah.
favorite thing in the world. So I don't have to be on it for work, which is great. I am on my phone often for work with emails and things like that, and I have all of my clients' emails synced to my phone so I get the notifications so I'm not just on my computer all day long. That also helps to keep me flexible, which is great. But it's very easy to toggle over and open Facebook really quick and Instagram really quick or Pinterest really quick. And really quick
Yeah.
becomes 20, 30 minutes and then where did time go? And you get like it can become so negative and such a comparison of everything. And that does not help and that cannot be good for me trying to get the little sleep that I am able to get, being lost to the overstimulation from being on screens and multiple screens all day long.
It's a little bit scary how you can just
It
like
is.
on autopilot open it up and then an hour later you're like, what
Yeah.
happened?
And like there's nothing there. Like it's the same
I know.
stuff every day. Like
Hmm.
if there's news, it's miserable and depressing, and
Hmm.
if not, it's the same trends that rotate through and the same people sharing the same things,
Hmm.
and it's just I try to be very specific and like when I'm looking at certain accounts or when I'm looking for something like a research item, like, okay, I'm struggling, with this with work or with this boundary or with this with the kids. Like, let me go check this one specific account that I like to follow and see
Hmm.
if they're dealing with the same thing and how they're handling it. And I might check a few referred accounts or tagged accounts and then I try to get off from there. But
Number 6 of 6 is to get professional help. And no one take that as an insult because it's not.
no, it shouldn't be.
So get therapy. As I said at the beginning of the episode, I am pretty sure that everyone on the planet is experiencing at least mild PTSD these days. I have a book recommendation for you.
Awesome.
The myth of normal, and it's gonna blow your mind a little bit. Basically, a psychiatrist, I believe, who just got right into the science and the stories about people who completely changed their lives by addressing their childhood traumas. And that's, such a range of things. Like some people had some, horrific things happen to them in their childhood. Some people just didn't realize that their parents arguing had the massive impact on them as adults that it had. So,
Yeah.
yeah, read that book because it's
Yeah.
pretty fascinating. Also, speak to your family doctor because if you're experiencing symptoms that could be alleviated with medication, for example,
Yep.
in a way that would help you get back to doing the things that you enjoy doing, that will ultimately help you live without medication, that would be great. You'd speak to a naturopath, a nutritionist, an Eastern medicine specialist, because all of these people have ways of contributing to positive mental health. You could speak to your spiritual leader. Not my thing, but it is some people's thing. And
Yep.
that's basically, in my mind, the same thing as going to a therapist. If you're going to talk to
Yeah.
someone who has the same values as you and can
Yeah.
help you work through things, do it. As I have mentioned a few times, I do speak with a therapist. She is a very bubbly, upbeat, how's it going type person. But also, every once in a while, she goes, why are you doing that? Maybe you need to think about what you're doing. Do you have thoughts on getting professional help.
I agree very much with that. I probably spent the majority, if not all, of my university years on antidepressants, and was getting ready to go back on them after having my first daughter, and then decided to instead stop my hormonal birth control so that I didn't need to go back on antidepressants.
Yeah, I've experienced that too.
Yeah, and that made a huge difference with the postpartum hormones and my hair loss and everything else. I had gone right back on birth control after having her. And about 3-4 months in, I was like, this feels worse than it should. Like, this is not what I need. So went off of it as kind of like a trial. And I was like, I wasn't feeling like 100%, but I was feeling like 75. And I was like, I'll take it. That's great. That is great.
75 is pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah. So for me, I do a lot of I don't know, like internal work, I guess. Like I try to manage it myself, and I'm able to see the signs when I'm having like a or a particularly depressive period coming on, and being like, okay, I'm having a shitty day. Like, let's do things that are going to make it better and adjust there. And I think that also comes with the age and how long I've been dealing with this, that I can recognize what's going to help make me feel better. And sometimes if I just need to like ride the low and have like, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like sometimes you just need to have a low day and eat some ice cream and watch a bad movie and, just go with it. You don't need to force yourself to be perky, and sometimes you do. And, but, yeah, that's how I have been able to manage it. But, I'm totally on board with having a therapist. It hasn't been something that's been accessible for me, unfortunately. But my sister and many other of my friends and family members have, and it's been a world of difference, very beneficial. And I think if you can talk to someone that you trust.
Yeah.
Can I have 2 seconds? Then if you can talk to someone that you trust, then I think it just makes such a big difference in just being heard and feeling seen, and that you're being validated in all of those things.
Which is totally what we're going to be talking about in the next episode.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that. And, you mentioned going off of your birth control. And I guess I didn't say that when I said talk to your family doctor, because that would be another thing. I mean, there are so many medications that influence people's, mental health. So if, or even, like if I was taking a medication, for example, that was making me feel constipated every day, that would have an impact on how I feel,
Yeah.
So, think about it. Talk to your family doctor. Maybe they have some advice that's not like, take this medication in addition to everything else that you're doing. It might be like, why don't we change this, take less, go off of it, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
Exactly.
If you're wanting to do some of that deeper work that Nikki was just talking about, I have a resource for you in my Etsy shop. It is a mood journal. So it is a full 365 days, like a planner, but instead of tracking the work that you're going to do in the day, you're going to track what your mood is and what your triggers were, so that you can maybe start to look at why you're feeling the way that you are and hopefully start to address those things. So if you want to go to my Etsy shop and check that out, it would be excellent. There is a code to get 20% off of the mood journal, and the code is MOODCAST, MOODCAST. So we'll put a link in the show notes along with the code for you to check out the mood journal and remind us about your resource.
Oh, sorry. I was like, I thought you were still talking about your resource. So my resource is the Essential Tips for the Entrepreneur, which you can find on theavasolution.com. There'll be a nice pop-up there when you jump in, and then we'll talk about some tips as a business owner for keeping organized and making the most of your workday.
And what is your ridiculously happy moment for today?
My ridiculously happy moment was the smile on my daughter's face during her first little roller coaster ride on Saturday because the Rip Vest had a little mini midway and it was like a big long alligator and it was her and this one other little boy in it, and I was convinced that she was going to be terrified. And on the first little round, she is like arms in the air, big, huge, like ear to ear grin, just having like the best time, and I was so proud of how brave she was. What's your ridiculously happy moment?
So I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. Kevin and his son and I were driving home, and we're almost at the house, so we can see this like massive rainbow. Like, oh my goodness. So we get to the house, stop at the end of the driveway, get out, start taking pictures of this rainbow, get back into the car, drive up the driveway, get out of the car, walk into the field, start taking pictures again of the rainbow. It was a double rainbow and a full rainbow, like a full double rainbow. You could see so many colors, like the full spectrum of the rainbow. You could see like the blues and the purples and everything, which I don't know if I've ever seen that in a rainbow. And then I'm taking all these pictures like, oh my goodness, with my phone. And then I can hear like my mother behind me, and then Kevin's daughter and his daughter's friend behind me. Like everyone had come outside and was like, oh my goodness, this rainbow. Did you see this rainbow? It was cool. We all stood outside and took pictures of this amazing rainbow. So yeah, moments of awe. You need to have them. I'll probably post some of the pictures in the show notes.
Cool.
So we want to hear what your ridiculously happy moments are as well, and we want to share them on the show. So you can share them with us on social media. You'll see the prompts for those, or just send us a DM. You can also record your own. If you go to happyp.pl/moment, so happyp.pl/moment, you can record your happy moment there, and we'll play it on the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram and Facebook at The Ava Solution, and online at theavasolution.com. All nice and cohesive.
Excellent. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I photograph ridiculously happy people. And you can find me on Instagram at ridiculously happy people, and that's PPL, on Facebook and on Pinterest, and at sophialemon.com. Thank you for making the time to listen to this episode. We hope you feel inspired to live a little more kindly, more confidently, and more ridiculously happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review in your podcast app of choice. Your feedback is important in helping us spread this ridiculously happy movement. We also invite you to join our Facebook community at Ridiculously Happy People. And remember that happiness is contagious, so who do you know who always seems to be just too busy? Share this show with them and help them slow down for a moment. And you can find the shareable links to the show in the show notes for this episode. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.